So we are recording this meeting. So welcome to Startup Change Leaders weekly meeting. We meet every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. and try and discuss something related to the startup ecosystem. What are the various challenges being faced by startups, and of course, try to enhance our knowledge on startup ecosystem and what are the challenges we are facing. So it's an interactive session. We try and last time we had a OKR for startups where Anil was there. Now today we are going to talk about the basic legal formalities for the startups and how they are supposed to handle them. So I'm not going to make it very complicated. We'll keep it very simple so that all of us can understand what all we need to prepare for in terms of the basic legal formalities and what we need to do to actually meet those formalities. And of course, it is always better if you have a guide or a mentor working with you who can actually uh, sail you through these basic legal formalities. But nevertheless, even if you don't have a mentor working with you, it works, when you have the knowledge of what all needs to be done. And of course, professionals are always there to help you in, uh, how to evolve these formalities. So we'll be talking about that today. And of course, we will take you through what are the those formalities where we need to work on. Now, just a minute, I'm facing some issue with the slide movement. Now, if you look at the requirements which we need to work on, basically the successful startups are one which are driven by entrepreneurs who are focused on building a unique solution. And of course, you need to deliver that customer delight. But the first and the foremost thing is, because there are a couple of founders who may be involved in the startup, is the formalization of the founders agreement. Because at the end of the day, that these founders have to work together and go for this startup journey on in the long run. So the foundation has to be very, very perfect. So the founders agreement need to be properly drafted. You must have a proper knowledge about how the founder agreement should be. And of course, you need to safeguard the intellectual property. And the contract has to be as per the business contracts. And they have to be, adherence to the all latest laws. And of course, the laws which are governing the business and the market. And suppose you are doing a overseas some arrangement in your startup, then of course the laws of that country also we need to be aware of. But if it is a local startup operating in India, then of course the founders agreement and the safeguard on all the aspects of the agreement need to be there. So that is something very basic which we all must ensure. And of course, the registration process, whether you are registering a company or you are registering a LLP, or of course the partnership also. Partnership is not governed by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, but the other two bodies are always governed by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So we need to be very clear as to what are the requirements and how we need to handle that bit. No, so that of course. Having said that, we need to be very clear on our how we are going to follow this entire journey. And of course we need to incorporate and also register at Startup India. So there are some mandatory registration requirements, which is like a PAN. You need to have a permanent account number. Then you need to have TAN, which is tax deduction and collection account. And of course, if you feel that, okay, you are going to do business right away, and some GST registration requirement is also there, although the threshold limit for GST registration is 20 lakhs. So if you are having turnover which is going to be less than 20 lakhs, you may not go for immediately the GST registration, and you may opt for it a little later when your MVP and other things are done, and when you start buying products and start because if you are not registered as a GST, then of course if you are buying some machinery or buying some R&D equipments or something like that for your startup, you will lose on the GST credits which you may get. So you have to really take a call whether that amount is significant or not. And because GST compliance also is a cost. But let me tell you, GST registration and the compliance, of course, sometimes is not so expensive. But if you are buying a bulky equipment or bulky product for your startup for R&D purposes or for any other such purpose, then it is always better to opt for GST registration also. And the business license provided by Government of India also, of course, sometime is required for the startup. So you have to really judge whether your particular startup requires that kind of a business license. If there is a requirement, suppose you are in a food business, or you are in a particular business which is separately regulated, so you may have to go for that registration as well. So kindly keep yourself on mute. And of course, the nature of startup activities also determine the most of the license requirements. And some other prominent factor include the location of the business, number of employees, and business ownership forms. Such licenses are health license, trade license, establishment license, shop license, and safety license. So we need to have an eye on requirement for these kind of licenses, because as a startup, we should be very careful about maintaining the compliance levels. So we should not go wrong on any of these compliances, and we should be very clear that what are the requirements which we may have for these compliances. Now, as we discussed, the first and foremost thing is formalizing a business structure and the founders agreement. So you must be very clear about the nature of your business, and of course, whether you are going to keep it sole proprietor, private limited, public limited, partnership, limited liability partnership, etc. But it is always better that in the initial stage itself, if you go for a private limited company, because the private limited company benefit is that in case you are going to go to the market for funding. So definitely you need to offer the equity shares of your company. Or for example, you can these days, we had a discussion the other day on CCPS, so cumulative convertible preference shares or compulsory convertible preference shares can also be there. So you need to look at what kind of structure you want, but it is always recommended that in the initial stage itself you can go for the registration as a private limited company, because that will help you. Otherwise you have to go through the process of change of name or change of the constitution of your business, and maybe you have to go back to Startup India, that, oh, I am now converting my this LLP into private limited company at a later stage. So and as we discussed, that Startup India has lots of benefits to offer to the startups, including the possibility of getting the you can get almost uh, the government tenders, the government orders. There are certain tax exemptions. So at the initial stage itself, the constitution of the company or private limited company, if not public limited, of course, the compliances are more, is always recommended. And of course, each of the business has its own set of legal requirements, and of course you should pay attention to that before incorporating, so that you are on the right side of the law always. And of course you must um, you know think about this aspect, that how you are going to run your business. If you are going to go for external funds, and then you need to be very clear on all these aspects. But if you are going to be bootstrapped, okay, certain things you can do step by step. So you can form the company earlier, later, or even if you can start as a proprietary firm, and maybe you can start working on your project through your own funds, and then later on you can go for the registration with the Startup India and convert that sole proprietorship into a private limited company at the right time. Why? Because the grants, and there are certain things which are available, are for 2 years from the date of registration. So if you are your project is going to take more time in the initial phase itself, and you feel that you may have a situation where this is going to maybe take more than 1 year or so, then better you start as a proprietary firm or a partnership firm, and then later convert yourself into a private limited company, and then go for Startup India registration. So it really depends on your project, how much time you require for the preparation and for coming to MVP level. And of course, the founder agreement has to be properly drafted, and so that there is no possibility of any confusion later. And then, of course, as we discussed, there are various business licenses. So you need to be very clear on what are the licenses which are applicable to your startup. And yeah, it really depends on the nature and size of business. So you look at what are the legal requirements with regard to your licenses which you require. For example, I made a mention about the uh, you know mm, food companies. Then, for example, if you are into robotics, or if you are into, you are trying to work in a company which is going to be working on drones or something like that. So then there are certain specific licenses of DRDO which are required to be taken. If your company is into something to do with radio frequencies, then there are certain licenses which are required for that before you really start. So you need to be first very clear as to what are the licenses which may be required for your business. And then you must go ahead and operate after taking those businesses only, after taking those licenses. And of course, you must list your business with those official registrars. And then there are some very simple and basic licenses like Shops and Establishment Act. And then, of course, the trade and business where it is carried out, you need to have a license. Sometime, if you are part of the industry, then some industrial license is also required. So you need to look at all those aspects. Uh, After you have taken care of the registration of the company and your licenses, then comes your understanding about the taxation and accounting laws, uh, which is very critical. Every businessman, every startup should have a very clear understanding about the taxation and accounting laws, because at the end of the day, it is all about what kind of structure you are offering to your uh, the people who are going to invest in you also. They will make sure that you are actually on the compliance, properly on the compliance side of tax and the accounting laws. So one, of course, you must be aware about the central tax, the state tax, the local taxes, which may be applicable on your business. And then, of course, there are certain sectors which attract different taxes. Knowing them beforehand is very, very important. So even a small things like octroi or I still remember in certain areas of Bhiwandi and that Maharashtra, there was certain octroi still was there, although that was taken away in most of these after the GST. But you need to be aware what are the local requirements where your material is moving, or what are the state taxes which are applicable on you. And then, of course, the under the Startup India initiative, there are certain exemptions and tax holidays which are available. We already discussed that in our earlier meetings also. So there is a tax holiday of 3 years which is available to the startups. So this also you need to plan well, because in the initial 2 years or in the initial 3 years of your business, you may not be having so much of profitability, and so you need to opt for the tax exemption, maybe from 3 years to say, you have to pick up a window. So you need to plan which years you should actually take that tax exemption window, so that it is the most beneficial for your company to gain those tax exemptions. And there are exemptions from the capital gain, and of course, the investments above fair market value. So you need to plan that well. And I would suggest you should always take help from accounting professional or a taxation professional who can guide you on these aspects. Uh, and then, of course, adherence to the various labor laws. This is a very important part for any small or big organization. And when you hire people who work for your organization, you need to be aware what are the labor laws, regardless of the size of your organization. And of course, minimum wages, gratuity, provident fund, weekly holidays, maternity benefits, sexual harassment policy, payment of bonus, amongst others, which we need to comply. But for startups, there are certain exemptions for inspection for 1 year. And after 1 year also, there is a for up to 5 years, you can make self-declaration, and the inspectors will come only if there are serious allegations made by anyone on your startup. Otherwise, and they have given this, exemption to the startups that, okay, we are not going to bother you with inspections for the initial 5 years. But as you know, that the new labor code is now coming in, and labor code is basically going to be uh, covering all these startups, although the exemptions hopefully are going to continue for the startups, but you need to comply with all those requirements. So there are for self-declaration, there are 9 labor laws, which covers almost all the basic labor laws like Provident Fund and others. So you need to trade union and others, of course. So you need to be aware about these labor laws, and you need to do that self-declaration formality, so that you are on the right side of the law always. Any questions so far in whatever we have discussed?
Yeah, Rajiv, this is Sanjay here.
Yeah.
When you say we can avail a 3-year tax holiday
Ji,
if we are registered with Startup India,
ji.
can we choose the 3-year period or immediately
Yeah, yeah.
upon?
No, we can choose. We can always choose. That is why the provision says it is a 3-year tax holiday out of the 7-year period. So,
Okay.
out of the first 7 years, you can always choose which are those years where you can avail that tax benefit. So that is why I was explaining that it is always better that first, second year, normally the startups are not making so much of profit, they are on losses or something. So the income sometimes starts in the third year, sometime in fourth year. So it is better to choose the later years for availing this tax holiday. Yeah.
And do they 3 years have to be consecutive or?
Consecutive, they have to be consecutive.
Okay.
So that is, you can't pick and choose. So it's a continuous period of 3 years, but they have given a window of 7 years. Up to 7 years, you can choose those 3 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, my name is Naveen.
Yeah, Naveen.
My question would be regarding the labor laws.
Yeah.
My startup, we are planning to start within a month, so we are going live within a month. So
Okay.
we'll be hiring the employees. Our work will mainly involve hiring the sales executive who will be going on the field and doing the sales for us.
Okay.
So how practical is it to implement the minimum wages since the start? Because I'll be just keeping only 2 to 3 employees. So to comply with the labor laws, as per my understanding, at least 20 employees should be there.
No,
So how
but
practical is it?
minimum wages is not having that kind of limitation. No, minimum wages are minimum wages, right? So
Okay.
of course the Provident Fund and the ESI registration and all these have 10 or 20 employee limits. No, but minimum wages you can't pay less than minimum wages because these are actually monitored by the state. Minimum wage is a state subject. No, so for example, in Delhi there are different minimum wages. In Punjab there are minimum wages are different. In UP the minimum wages are different. So wherever you are operating from, you need to be aware what are the minimum wages of that city or that state, and you need to follow that.
Okay. So, sir, one more question.
Yeah.
Sir, from practical purposes, I was talking to this lawyer. He suggested me that once you give the offer letter to the employee
Ji.
and you are giving less salary, let's say you are just giving 10,000 and 20,000 is a minimum in Delhi. So,
Mhm.
if employee accepts that offer letter and sign it and give it to you that, yes, I am accepting this offer, then
Mhm.
there is no question of, any dispute in future. So, I was not really sure about it. So,
No. I don't think he's guiding you well, because it's the law of land. Of course,
Mhm.
in minimum wages also there are different categories of minimum wages. whether it is unskilled worker, it is a
Yes.
skilled worker, it is a semi-skilled worker. No,
Hmm.
so then of course you can play with that categorization that he is an unskilled worker or he is a semi-skilled, and that also there are certain criterias to look at about their skill sets. But of course, even temporary workers are covered under minimum wages. So even if you say hire a contractor and that contractor is hiring further the people, they are also required to adhere to the minimum wages.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
How about interns, Rajiv?
Interns are not covered because the interns are either part of that, they are covered by Apprentice Act or something.
Apprentice.
And interns are not covered under minimum wages because they are on training actually. Internship is all about we are giving training to people, right? We are not employing them.
Okay. So as long as they're not on our rolls, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Sir, one more question related to this only.
Yeah.
Sir, if we are hiring the employees in initial 6 months, we are keeping them on probation. Again, I'm talking to sales field executives. I'm keeping them on probation for initial 6 months, and I'm just paying them a lump sum salary. There is no,
So
bifurcation.
then keep them on internship or something, that kind of agreement. Don't. So you are kind of training them for
Yes.
for that role. No?
Yeah.
So don't say probation. Probation means you have hired and you are just observing them. No, but
Okay.
internship and probation are two different things, right? So
Yes.
so better to call them as trainee or as an intern till
So,
the time
but they will have the targets also. So will I be able to, force them to complete the target when they are?
that's part of their training. No? You are trying to groom them for becoming the salespeople in future, right? So, but
Yes.
don't show that they are on your roles or something, because
Okay.
that will definitely attract the Minimum Wages Act.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Ajish, you were saying something.
Yeah. That labor law, like you mentioned, like 5 years, we need not have the labor will not come for inspection. Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, in order to give the startups some kind of benefit, no. So Government of India announced that for there are 9 acts which are covered in that. So which includes the Trade Union Act, the some Industrial Worker Act or something. Then, of course, the Provident Fund and some other acts are also there. So under those acts, the inspectors can come and verify your records, no, or they can ask for you to come and show the records or something. So in this, they have given exemption for up to 5 years from inspectors coming in and inspecting your premises and all that. So your self-declaration will be good enough for in that initial period, because they are going to help startup that so that they don't have to um, bother too much about that, oh, inspectors are coming and bothering them or something. So from that perspective, they have given this exemption to the startups. And but if there is a violation of the any of the law going on and somebody reports, then of course they can, but not without that. So this is a kind of a support they are giving to the startups, so that in the initial phases of their journey, they can focus more on their business rather than bothering too much about the inspections and inspectors coming in and on that part. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to do compliances. Compliances are required to be done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we move on to the next very important part, which is protection of intellectual property. These days, whenever I'm guiding and advising my startups, I always tell them that don't, think that IP you can register later, because that's the most important thing. You must guard your intellectual property, and you must, because that is the secret sauce for you, for your business, and especially if it is a tech-centric business. Because what is your concept? What is your technology which you are bringing in? And you need to protect that with IP. You must register the IP. So intellectual property protection is available, and Startup India has also got a set of lawyers or people who have volunteered to register on the Startup India website. So you can find the intellectual property lawyers in that your area, and they are charging actually very low fee, which is again regulated by Startup India, for registration of IP and for registration of your patent and their protection. So it is always better to because this is one of the benefit you get by registering on Startup India, that you get to pay. Otherwise, all these IP lawyers are very expensive. So you get to get their support at a very limited and minimum cost. But let me tell you, the foreign investors particularly, they look at how many IPs you have, how many patents have you registered, what is the unique part of that patent, and of course they want to go in details about that patent. So and that leads to the better valuation for your startup. So if you have a patent which is very unique, and that can have potential becoming a valuable asset for you and your company in future stage, people would like to invest because you have that patent, no? So that aspect is very, very important. And let me tell you, in India, people are now realizing the importance of this intellectual property. But in US, it has been there for ages. But yes, we our startup ecosystem is also now well, aware. People are coming in. A lot of IIT guys, a lot of IIM guys are entering into this startup arena. So they are very, very well educated about the importance of registering the intellectual property. And let me tell you, this is something you should be very focused on. You should not take it casually, that, oh, I'll do it later, or let me come with my MVP first and then come with. People are actually first protecting their unique patents, and then they announce about their invention to the whole world, because otherwise somebody else may copy your idea. So it is very important that you register your intellectual property at the right time, and of course make sure that it is well protected. And of course the scheme of facilitators who are there, Controller General of Patent, Trademark and Design, also has impaneled the facilitators who can actually help you go ahead with all these formalities. And of course, they can tell you who are the right people who can actually help you, complete all these formalities. And it's very, very important for your startup to do that. Now, the most important thing is the contract management. Of course, contracts are required for smooth functioning for the work. And of course, they are all governed by Indian Contract Act 1872. So you must have a good legal firm working with you, because sometimes, if your contracts are not properly drafted or they are not, legally tenable, sometimes the very, very small things like, suppose you are receiving, signing a contract with some overseas partner or any overseas supplier or overseas uh, investors also. They will put a clause that all the jurisdiction clause is there in all the contracts. So they may say the jurisdiction is at New York. Now, if the some problem happens with your arrangement with them, they file a case in New York. You may pay out of your roof to defend that in the courts of New York, because then you have to appoint a lawyer in New York. You may have to visit New York courts for that. So it is always very, very important that when you are doing the contracts, you must study those contracts well. You must not sign the contracts just like that, and you must have a proper legal help on your side, and because these small mistakes sometimes can lead to a very, very expensive fallouts later. And it is always said that these contracts are not for happy days. They are always for the days when you may have a challenge, or you may have a confusion, or you may have a difference of opinion with your supplier or investor or whatever. So you must actually be very careful. So I always advise to negotiate this aspect that, okay, if not in New York, you can settle for some common location like Singapore, where it is easier for you to defend. And of course, the arbitration laws in Singapore are much simpler. So for international contracts, it is always better to go for a location which is more convenient for you. And if they can agree on the jurisdiction of India, New Delhi or whatever, that is always much better. So when you are actually working on the contracts, you must pay due attention to the contents of your contract, and contract management has to be perfect. Most of these multinationals these days and the big companies, they have their own huge legal set of people, so in-house legal counsels and things like that. So their contracts are very much skewed towards the protection of their interests, so but you being a startup are still very small in terms of you don't have internal legal guys working with you. So why not you should hire a proper set of people who should actually vet those contracts, and should make sure that those contracts should not be skewed towards those investors or the people who are actually drafting those contracts, and they should be balanced, and you must be very careful about these aspects. Then there is a important aspect of winding down of the business, because as we were discussing that, okay, starting a business is of course very important, but you should always keep that in mind, that in case my business doesn't take off, how effectively we can wind down the business, because that should not be very complicated process, and it should not lead you to more losses. So closing a company is a difficult call for the entrepreneur, because you are married to that idea. You feel that, oh, this is my company. I need to be very, your emotions are kind of connected with that enterprise. But when you decide to shut down, Of course, all the stakeholders from vendors to employees to customers, investors need to be informed in advance of the whole process. It must be properly planned and executed in order to make the exit easy for everyone. So you must do that kind of planning also, that how that exit will be made smooth. So all your contracts, all your agreements, all your the documents should have that kind of a closure clause where you should be very clear that in case you decide to wind down the business, or you decide to shut down the business, how that is going to be. And in the Ministry of Corporate Affairs also these days are allowing the fast track exit mode to the startups. Then there is a court or a tribunal route also, where you can approach the court that okay, you need to go for the winding up of the business. And there is a process of voluntary closure also. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are setting up a business, sometimes you don't even think about the closure. But that should not be considered as a taboo, that in the initial stage itself, why are we should be, it's a negative thought or something. No, it's not a negative thought. It is a very, very positive way of looking at things. You should have that as a provision inculcated in all your contracts. Even your shareholding contracts should have the clause that okay, in case of a closure of the company or fast track exit or something, how the settlement will be done with the investors, what kind of exit mode is going to be available with them, how the company is going to treat them at the time. And of course the even with the employees and others, when you are having a documentation or a contract, exit clause is always there. I think all of us have seen the appointment letters. Appointment letter talks about the exit also, right? So we need to be very practical and pragmatic in our approach, and we should always work on these aspects very well. And now in the Companies Act also, if the 3 years the company has not done any business and it doesn't have any assets or liabilities, it can go for a fast track exit, and that is very much possible. So we must go for that. And of course you should be prepared. Then comes the most important aspect of website terms and conditions and privacy policy. Every startup is expected to have a web presence these days. So it is mandatory to put a customized and uh, proper terms and conditions. And of course, you should have your own privacy policy. So it is a legal document where your company's view and procedures on the information collected from visitors, where the terms and conditions, what are the terms and conditions for that. You must have a clarity on this. And in case somebody may put that okay, their customer data was leaked or something, or their privacy was although in India such stringent laws are not there, but in overseas countries, many countries have very strict privacy laws, although our privacy laws are also now improving. So we need to be very careful that even our employees who are handling that data, they should have enough protection. And it is in our interest also to protect the data of our customers, our people who are dealing with us. And you should be very clear about that on your website itself. And of course, it should cover the all aspects relating to product and services. Of course, you must also have those clauses that in case of any dispute or how the settlement will be made. So that should be included in your contract. So that is why I said that the drafting of the contracts should be very, very uh, done very well, and you should have a proper legal help working with you. There should be enough disclaimers. There should be liability limitations, and disclosure on sites privacy policy should be there, where the customer information, copyright protection warnings, and jurisdiction where any disputes should be handled should be very clear. So sometimes we become very casual about jurisdiction aspect. So I would once again recommend that we should be very, very carefully looking at this clause, because sometimes ignorance can lead to a lot of complications. And there is a saying, ignorance of law is no excuse. So you can't say that, oh, I didn't know. No. So whatever is the applicability of law, that you have to defend. No. So in case some problem happens, then you should be prepared for the defense. So I think that is where I think we need to be very careful to protect ourselves against those future liabilities which may come. So to wrap up our discussion today, having met all these compliances, of course, they will not ensure the success of the startup automatically. Of course, hard work has to be put in by all the members who bear the fruit of the success. But having met these legal compliances with the utmost precision, you definitely improve the chances of your success of your new venture. Because if you are kind of caught in the limbo, and you are kind of caught in the situation where we were spending too much time on managing disputes and managing these legal complications, or managing this legal liability coming on the company because you have not adhered to that particular compliance, is going to be very painful. So when you are actually implementing your startup, have a person who has the knowledge about all these legal aspects working hand in hand with you. It will not cost you much as compared to when actually you have really become successful and suddenly some legal complication comes and you are slapped with a big maybe penalty or something, which may be very hard to for your startup to pay. So a little cost of paying legal fee to your consultant or a person who is working with you will save you from all those troubles later. So it is very, very important that we should all be very careful about the legal aspects, and adherence to legal formalities is important, very important for any business, and knowledge of compliance and applicable laws will ensure that you handle those business operations perfectly. And of course, I just mentioned that a professional or experienced lawyer can serve the needs, and of course, can save you from a lot of complications which may arise later. So that is where I think we all need to work on. So I just wanted to share these aspects with you today. Any questions now from anyone? I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, Rajiv, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What is the difference between patents and trademarks?
Patents are basically you have a technology which you are trying to patent, no? That is a unique technology. Whereas trademark is a mark, that, okay, this is this particular logo or this particular this will represent your company. For example, you have a trademark which is McDonald has a trademark, right? So nobody can copy that and say that, oh, this is my mark. The mark M signifies McDonald's. And trademarks also over a period of time develop a lot of value, because if I think earlier also I mentioned we were traveling in Malaysia. So and McDonald has this policy, they put that mark up,
In the
at
sky.
at a distance. You can actually, when you are
See it.
moving on a highway, you can see it and you stop,
Yes.
because one, they created a value around that trademark, that they created that quality will be, you are assured that the quality will be good and the quality will be best. And of course, the significance of that mark itself is that, okay, it's McDonald, no? But suppose tomorrow somebody else in the food business tries to copy that a mark and say that, oh, this is my mark, then definitely McDonald has already a registered trademark, so they can sue them. They can actually stop them from doing that. Similarly, Haldiram is a trademark, no? Now, but patent is different. Patent is basically that, okay, you have done some research, you have created some technology like a robo or something which is unique, so you register it as your own patented technology. Then if somebody else has to use that, they have to pay you that for use of that patented technology, and that becomes a very valuable asset for you. So that's how broadly it is a difference between patenting and
So
trademarks.
does the trademark have any commercial value?
Of course, रात को भी मैकडोनल्ड का साइन दिखता है तो हम you can if suppose tomorrow McDonald thinks that, okay, I have to sell this business, because that mark itself has a lot of value.
So it's a goodwill value.
Of course.
Thanks.
Yeah. Ajish?
Yeah, this privacy and privacy protection, is it like protecting our data? Like suppose we pay something, they collect our data, they'll not manipulate it. Is that?
Not only that, for example, there are you need to protect your customer information. You need to protect their identity. You need to protect so that the customer also, for example, you are dealing with a healthcare business, no? So what kind of disease your customer had, no, is all there in your database, right? But if that data leaks out, it can cause harm to your customer, no, because it may impede their privacy. So in India, we are not so particular, but now the awareness about the privacy protection is increasing. But in US and other countries, this is a very debatable subject, that you need to protect the identity and the data of your customer, even the phone numbers, even their email IDs. We need to keep them protected.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? So thank you very much. I think we had a good discussion today, and I'm sure this has opened some, given you some thoughts about how to keep your privacy protection and how to keep your data here. Pratyush, my phone number I am putting here. It is 98114 53353, and I'm on WhatsApp on this number. We also have a community which is and we are now having our own group on WhatsApp. So please you may ping me on this number, and definitely I'll add you to the community and our future programs, and so you can keep getting all the references. And we have started putting this on my YouTube channel, CS Rajiv Bajaj. So you can whatever programs we are doing, recordings are available. So you can have a look at it, any of the topics which we cover later as well. So, and do join that, subscribe to that channel if you have not done so far. So thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rajiv.
Thank you.
Hello?
Bye-bye. Yeah, please.
Sir, can I take down your number? I could not note it down.
Yeah, it is 98114. I put it in the chat window.
Okay. That's fine then.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
take it.
yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.